Welcome, everyone. It is Matthew David Hurtado, and today we're going to talk about something I know everybody likes, and that is being happy. And it's unfortunately something that not everybody's good at, and everybody can get good at it. And I have an expert today, and he is known as the Happiness Guy. His name is Ricky Powell, and I'm looking over my notes here, and we're going to talk about some of the experiences that he had that is going to help you transform yourself from being a victim to becoming the victor. And I'm curious to know how happiness ties into all of that. So welcome to the call, Ricky. How are you?
I'm great, Matthew. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much. Well, I can see it all over you. You just exude happiness, so you're the product of your product.
Oh, we just got together. You can already tell?
If whatever you have, I want it. So show me how to get it.
You got it. It really, truly is, it's a state of mind. Have you noticed lately in the past several years, it feels like all of a sudden happiness is this whole new hotbed topic and everyone's talking about it and everyone's writing about it. I feel like I discovered happiness when it was like some new thing, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No, truthfully, happiness has been around since the dawn of man, right? Over 2,000 years ago, Aristotle said, happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. And that sounds pretty important, right?
Yes.
And the thing is, I truly believe it is really the most important thing there is in your personal and professional life is living a life that you're in love with, making the most of every second. And of course, you can't be happy 100% of the time. That's impossible. And that's actually a good thing because think about it, you can't have light without darkness. You can't have good without bad. There's that yin and yang everywhere in the world. And so for me, I think it's about being as happy as you can be as much of the time as possible. And for when you're being really challenged and going through losses and things, pain and things like that, then I think it's about having the inner peace within you to get you through those valleys.
Yes. So tell us about some of those experiences that you had and that allowed you, because I can tell you've got some depth of wisdom here. That it's not just because happiness. I could tell somebody just be happy,
Right.
But there's obviously a lot of depth in your experience. So tell us about some of that and how you gained that mastery.
I think it's just been over the course of my life, and to I feel blessed at every moment, even at some of the most painful moments, from like when I think I was around 3.5 or 4 years old. I had an older brother who was 13 years older than I was, and he had run away several times before he turned 18, and then when he turned 18, he ran away, and we never saw him again. I just lost my brother like that, and not that we were so close back then because of the age difference, but still, that's just wrapping your head around the fact that your brother ran away and you don't know if he's dead or alive. That was, and I saw the pain that my mom went through with that, and just calling the police and investigators, and it was a whole painful experience in and of itself. And then as the years went on, started feeling what loss is like, losing both of my grandparents. And then when I was 23, that really was the most devastating loss still to this day. And what happened was my best friend in high school and college, we went to high school and college together. He helped get me my first job after graduating, and now we were working together. And the most amazing guy, he was an athlete, never took a drug in his life, didn't smoke, and he would give you the shirt off his back. And one morning I was at work, and I got a call first thing in the morning from the lady who hired me saying, "Ricky, I have bad news." And I thought, well, what could that be? And I'm thinking, you're fired, right? What else could it possibly be? I was 23 years old. My friend and I were both 23 years old at the time. And she said, Michael had a heart attack and died this morning.
Oh, man.
And I heard those words, and at first, I mean, I just didn't even believe it. And I said, "What?" And she said, "Maybe you should come down to my office." And I did. And as it turns out, he had it was all kind of like a heart attack. I mean, he had a congenital heart issue, but they knew about it. It was not supposed to be a big deal. And he was like the brother I never had, really. And so, but he was the most amazing, positive person. And I took all of that positive energy, and I still feel like he's with me every day. I cherish every moment that I had with him for those years that he was my friend. I learned so much about optimism and happiness from him, as well as from my mom. I lost her in 2002 at 73, way too early also. And I just harnessed that energy. You know, Jim Rohn, are you familiar with Jim Rohn?
Yeah.
He was, right, Tony Robbins' mentor, and one of my favorite all-time mentors, and quote him all the time. And one of my favorites is, your personal philosophy is the greatest determining factor in how life works out for you.
Mm.
And for me, it's always been, there are no coincidences. I think everything happens for a reason. And it's easy to say that when things are going well. It's a lot harder to say that when these challenges come up, and you know, these painful losses occur, losing friends and loved ones way too early. But our philosophy, really, I think, of what happens after all this can play a significant role in that happiness level. You know, if energy is neither created nor destroyed, I think it's got to go somewhere. And I don't think it's an accident that I still feel like I have the energy from both of them with me always.
Yeah. And so you've obviously translated that into some pretty big success in your life. I've seen your bio. You've done a lot of really, really cool things. What are some of the lessons that you have learned that maybe you could share with someone like me that is coming up in the ranks, and I want to take what you've got and incorporate it? So what would you tell me if I'm sitting across the table from you and I say, I want what you have? How do I get it?
Well, there are definitely steps and tools that you can use, and three that I always share with every audience that I speak with, is serving others, having that built-in mechanism for wanting to serve and being in service, right? Because you can't help but feel better yourself when you're serving others. And so regardless of whether it's doing exactly what we're doing right now, which is really one of my favorite ways, you know, to serve people, is exactly what you're doing, what I'm doing. It's getting this message out there to a broad audience to help people understand that they're not alone. Many times people feel like they are alone, but just having these conversations sometimes can help someone understand that, no, you really are not alone. And when you find the right mentor or coach or whatever, to learn from and be mentored by, it really can be a very big help. So also in serving, it's finding a cause that really is close to your heart, that really means a lot to you. And there's so many great causes out there. And it's donating, you know, not just money. A lot of times people feel pressured or think that they have to write a check out to an organization to really help and benefit them, but you really don't. Time is our most valuable asset, much more so really even than money, because when you spend $1, chances are you can get that dollar back. When you spend a moment, it's gone forever. So when you're donating your time to an organization or to someone, that's a lot. I mean, that really speaks volumes. So serving others is huge. And then from there, forgiveness. I talk a lot about forgiveness and forgiving not just others, but forgiving yourself for past mistakes that you may have made. You know, again, we're all human and we all make mistakes. That's what we do. I mean, that's what makes us human also. And so, but having the ability to really release and let go of any anger that you're harboring again, for someone else or even for yourself, beating yourself up, that little voice we all have inside can be our best friend or our worst critic. So it's really about turning him or her into an ally, than an enemy. And finally, gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Being grateful not just for the big things, but for the little things. And it's really about love. I just finished the book, The Power. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I have not heard about that. Just The Power.
Yeah, The Power. It's by Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret.
Okay.
This was a follow-up. She's written, I think, maybe 3 or 4 by now. But The Power I found to be so interesting, and it's really all about how love really powers everything. Love is the power. And when you really, really dig in and think about it, it just makes total sense.
I believe so. I really do. I love what you said about service, because that's one of the things I really notice that makes me feel whole and complete is when I do donate my time and donate my money. Things that matter, I can give them away, and then all of a sudden I do start to feel happier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that works, but it just does. It just seems to work.
It really does. They've actually done studies on this and have found that when people spend as little as it could be $5. I mean, even giving someone a Starbucks gift card, or just something that small and seemingly insignificant, really can help you feel better.
What a cool technique! It really does. So it's almost it's like the reciprocating thing. It's almost a selfish thing, because you get to be the benefactor too.
It is. It's kind of it's a selfishly selfless thing to do, right? I mean, we really and that's the beauty of it. We don't give. The reason to give is not necessarily to make ourselves feel better. It's just a side benefit, or an added benefit of giving, and it helps the person you're giving to, and it really just does automatically. It's the boomerang effect,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like giving starts the receiving process. So when it comes to money, investing, things like that, that's why we learn too that you've got to give before you can receive. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I believe that too. It sets up like an unconscious expectation, not necessarily from the person you give to, but you feel open to it because you're like, hey, I'm a giver, so I can accept what you want to give me.
That's right. That's right. And that's a really good point too. And being okay with that. I think so many of us have this block, where we just, for whatever reason, we think we want, more abundance, more money, whatever it may be. And then for some reason, there's just some kind of block, whether it's a self-esteem thing or a self-sabotage thing, and we get in our own way. And to your point, it's really important to be open and accepting and just know that, what we have is of value, and it's highly valuable, and when people want to reward you for that, accept.
Yeah. What are some of the things you've noticed in your level of service that are most received by others in the highest capacity? Is it your presence? Is it your gift? Is it your treasure, your wisdom? What is it that people love to get the most?
I wish I could put this into words, Matthew. It was a little bit like, when we first started talking and you said, well, you look happy, I want that. I mean, people, once in a while people will joke with me, but many times they are being very sincere and truthful in the fact of they have said, I really want what you have. I want to be able to be that light or have that light. And that's the sort of thing that I think really can be learned with repetition. I'm constantly learning and growing and feeding my brain with positive material that is going to help me get to the next level and the next level. And I'm constantly learning and growing and then turning around and teaching, because that's sort of the triad. It's learn, practice, teach.
Yeah, and then you'll learn more. It's like you learn when you're teaching. It's
Exactly. Right.
talk about forgiveness. Forgiveness is your second thing you told me, and a lot of times I talk to people, they say I can't forgive. Like, what do you do with that when somebody says I don't know how to forgive? I wish I could.
Well, first of all, there's an awesome book that I read just pretty recently, actually, because I've been speaking about forgiveness for many years already, and yet again, in the vein of that lifelong learner thing, a friend recommended this book to me that I read called Radical Forgiveness,
Hmm.
and wow, I mean, it just took the whole topic of forgiveness to a whole nother level, and it's just so beneficial. And I think, again, that's one of those things where when you learn and you keep it in your mind and you understand the process. See, again, the thing with forgiveness is many times we feel like when we forgive someone else who harmed us or hurt us or disappointed us, we feel like we're doing them the favor of forgiving them. And you know, really, chances are that person doesn't really even care, right? Because if they hurt you that much to begin with, chances are they don't care whether you forgive them or not. The
Yeah,
thing to remember is it's not that person that you're giving the gift to, it is yourself. Because when you can let go and release that anger, the number one, beneficiary of that is you, because you're no longer trapping and harboring those feelings inside you. When you do that, there's nowhere for them to go, and I really feel like that can start to be the cause of disease and things like that. It's from harboring all those negative emotions within.
yeah, I like that a lot because a lot of the work I do happens to help people move past their dis-ease. I was one of those people. I had a very kind of rough childhood, and I had a lot of anger, and I played it out through sports, and I ended up having some pretty severe illnesses, and it was a state of being that was very negative that I ended up seeing myself in. That's why when I first saw you, I said, if I could, if you could bottle that, that would be the best potion on the planet.
Yeah.
When you get to that level of forgiveness and happiness, you're actually healing yourself.
Right, right. Well, that's interesting to know, and I'm so glad. So look how far you've come,
Yeah,
going from that past background and now studying what you have been doing,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It was a great experience. It's great knowledge, and that's why I can appreciate and respect the gift that you have and you're offering. So what have you noticed in your well-being? Have you noticed just energy levels and vitality? What is the translation of happiness into your life as it plays out into all areas?
Well, it's interesting and funny you should mention that, but because for the past several years I've been very focused, sort of laser focused on the whole happiness movement and philosophy and all of that. But I had thought of this concept over 20 years ago, and now I'm finally about to launch something else called Successponential.
Hmm.
And the thought behind that is it's helping people grow their success exponentially in every area of their lives, both personally and professionally. So this will encompass, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and financially, and kind of bringing together a community of like-minded, positive people to help support and teach one another. So we can all teach one another, learn from one another, be there to support and grow, sort of as a movement in success, because many people think that they'll be happy once they're successful. It's really the other way around. So you've got to be happy first from the inside, and then success can follow. When you look at happiness and success, you can't. It's impossible to be successful without being happy, because if you're not happy, you can be rich, you can be wealthy, but happiness is a whole nother thing. I mean, they are mutually exclusive.
Hmm.
So why not have both? I mean, that's ultimately the best of all worlds.
Yeah.
Uh, So that's what the whole new project is gonna touch on.
That's fascinating. And I wrote about that actually in my book, Allow, was talk about, if you want to allow, happiness is a really good way to do it, because the goal of all goals, in my opinion, is to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's behind everything you're looking for. Why do you want $1 million? So I can be happy. Why do you want to have perfect health? So I can be happy.
Right, right, and that's the interesting catch-22 that most people seem to fall into. That they walk around with this mindset playing the "I'll be happy when" game.
Oh yeah.
I'll be happy when I drive a better car, live in a bigger house, have a better job or career, when I finally meet my soulmate or have my first child or second child or my last child leaves home. There's so many reasons we give ourselves not to be happy right now, and at the end of the day, now is all we have. Because forget about tomorrow not being guaranteed. I've learned that your next moment is not guaranteed. There's nothing that says, right now, as soon as we're done, I will walk out of my house and, the proverbial bus will be running down the street. You never know. So that's why it's so important not to waste time, to really get this stuff, to really let it sink in on a very deep level so that you can really start enjoying and loving your life every day.
Mm-hmm. So how do you do the alternative to that? Because like you said, you can't be happy all the time. Mm-hmm. So let's say you go through a period when you want to allow yourself to experience some negativity. How do you process that so you can get back on the happiness track again?
Well, I think that's an interesting choice of words, because when you talk about the negativity, I think it's possible to go through the pain and the growth without necessarily looking at it as if it's a negative. Mm. Because again, if we can come back around to the knowledge that it can't be 100% great, you can't be 100% happy. So when you're in a position, a more vulnerable position, where that pain is coming in, then we can talk about the allowing that you talk about, and just allow that, allow it to come in and be, and really think about your feelings, whether you're journaling or talking with a friend. Although sometimes this can be tough stuff to talk about with friends unless you really are on the same wavelength. I sometimes will caution people that it's very different working with a coach or a mentor versus talking to a friend about all of this, because they will sometimes have their own agenda. A lot of times, if someone is not in a high vibration or in an elevated state, they want to pull you down with them. So even if you are feeling great, they might try to want to, for whatever reason, sabotage that. Not even really knowingly. It's kind of human nature, and I think in that sense. So, but I think it's okay to feel the pain. But again, just realize that just because you're going through pain, that doesn't really mean that it's negative. It means that you've got a lesson to learn. So yeah. It's learning that lesson and then moving on.
I like that. It's a perceptual shift. It's this isn't good or bad. It just is.
Right.
And I can choose the way that I respond to it. That's kind of how you're.
Exactly. We all write our stories every day, and it's all about the story you're writing. And if you don't like that story, the great news is, guess what? You can just crumble it up, throw it away, and write a new one.
Yeah. I love that. I have a mentor, and he told me this, and I've never heard this before until he said it, but he said, okay, a lot of you think that you are your past. He's like, if you don't like your past, just go get a scrapbook and go cut out pictures of people that you want to be your family members and just make it all up. He says, you're making it up anyway.
I love it. I love it. Well, and again, with all the pain that that we've been through in our lives, that's what I'm talking about. It's sort of like that's part of the story I'm talking about. If I were to tell or think of my story differently, like when I lost my friend, when I lost my mom, all of these losses that I've gone through, it would be ridiculously easy to want to be a victim and talk about the injustice and the unfairness, and I mean, I could go on forever with that story, but that story is not going to serve anyone. I mean, it's certainly not going to serve me, and it's not going to serve anyone that I'm trying to help these days. So that's not even I mean, it's not even a modicum of my makeup. Like, that's just not the story, you know. My dad, I never really had a real close relationship with my dad. Nevertheless, I really loved him, and he made it to 94. God bless him. I mean, it was amazing. But again, it's the selected memories that I choose to hold close to me and remember. And so when I look back on my life, it's pretty spectacular, and I'm so excited about from right now moving forward now. I mean, I really am in a major transition as well. I spent really my whole life in entertainment, first in front of the camera and then behind the camera. I spent 25 years at NBC putting every single show on the air. It was not 24/7 magic. There were some challenges there, and in fact, this guy that I was working with for my first 9 years there, very challenging working with him. He was 180 degrees and the workplace bully and all of this, and in fact, it was in an effort to help him and help myself get through it, where I picked up my first book on the subject of happiness by Dennis Prager. Happiness is a serious problem, and of course he wanted nothing to do with it, but I became so fascinated with it. I devoured every book I could, went to every program, and then I finally wrote my own book. So I really, in the vein of everything happens for a reason, and then when you talk about forgiveness, he made he really created a lot of misery that I was going through for 9 years. I don't hold one ill will against him, because I really feel like had I not gone through that experience, I don't think we'd even be here right now having this conversation. I think I was meant to do this by having gone through all of that.
I like that. I love the way that you perceive that and your attitude, and how you were able to take that and turn it into a strength and build something from it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the victim versus victor, because it's such a huge thing that I run into. Where is it that people get stuck with the story? Is that why they play the victim? Is that what usually happens?
I think they get stuck with the story, and so then it becomes, it becomes so ingrained. It really becomes that rut, and it's like, playing a record over and over again, and that's what ends up happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, as silly as this may sound, I think it's almost easier to play the victim than really stand in your own brilliance playing the victor. It's just easy to play the victim. And I think another thing is that a lot of times people feel like they need or want that sympathy from other people. And so, if I cry in my soup, if I play a victim, people will feel sorry for me, and that'll be a good thing.
Yeah. And what's the gain out of that? What do you think people are gaining? They get the sympathy, but then they go through the misery of creating the victimhood all over again. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that they realize just how detrimental this is to your entire life. I mean, it's this is the really big thing that can make or break you in a sense, because nothing good ever came from being a victim. And gosh, I mean, we even see this today in social media, and I try to stay as far away from politics and all of that as I can, because it's tough to maintain that happiness stance when you're just watching people hurl poison at each other. And my whole thing is like, really, like, forgive me, for this, but like, can't we all get along? I know that can be a little trite or whatever, but yet you see it going on. You see that victim mentality creeping in from various groups or whatever it may be. And then, it's so refreshing because then within the same group, there may be someone who does stand up and choose to be the victor role and say, "Come on, this is ridiculous. What are we doing? Why are we being victims?" and all of that. And there's just something so powerful in that to me.
Yeah, it's almost like in those capacities they're selling it. It's like you can sell fear because it sells.
Absolutely.
But it'll also kill you if you keep ingesting it, So eventually somebody does have to take responsibility at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Let's rise above this. Otherwise, we're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. And it's craziness.
It is. It is. And, to your point of, selling fear, I think out there in the world, there seems to be these different categories. And so selling fear is a huge one. And the mainstream media, and there's so many outlets out there, I think, that are selling fear. And then I think, 180 degrees from that, there's also a whole nother culture that sells the dream.
Yep. Okay. The dream.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, life can be perfect. Life, you can have all the time freedom and the money freedom and the up. And, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we've heard it a million times. And so they are literally 180 degrees. Like they're selling a dream.
Yeah.
And then, I think there are people who, for lack of a better term, like sell hope, right? But to me, that's where it is, because there is always hope, and it's all about capturing that, and again, just finding the right people, the right crowd to be around, and learning as much as you can, knowing that absolutely you can improve every single day if you want to. There's nothing dreamy about that. It's just a fact.
Yeah, it's like in the self-help category, or like you said, selling the dream. The title should be "Here's Why You Are Less Than," and then all the reasons why, and you can be happy if, and then there's that. But then you have the actual answer, because if you're happy now, you change your state of being, your circumstances will change, and I think that's the real pathway. To get here, you have to first do what you're doing. It's like the cart before the horse. This is actually the effect, not the cause. You're not going to get there by being a miserable, person.
Right. Correct.
And if you did, you're not going to like your life anyway, because you're just going to be a bigger miserable person with more problems. Because now, if you think you got money problems when you don't have money, wait till you have money, and you're going to have perception of way more problems. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've been through there. That's what I appreciate where you're at, because I've been there. I made a lot of money real quick, and it made me a bigger angry person, because I did it before I actually had the wisdom to catch up to it. So that I had to spend 2 years of getting more wisdom to try to figure out why I was so unhappy.
Right. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about money, is that it tends to be a magnifier of whoever you are. So if you're miserable and you win the lottery, you're just going to be miserably rich. I mean, you're going to have a lot of money, but you're still going to be miserable.
Yeah.
If you already do have the wisdom and the knowledge and all of that, and you're generally a happy person, then a lot more money will just allow you to do more of the things you want to do in your own life. And again, it's a matter of how much then you can even start giving back. Right?
I like your trifecta, and that's like my takeaway from this, is that I look at the pinnacle as the happiness, and then underneath it you have the service, you have the gratitude, and what was the forgiveness?
Forgiveness, right.
Yeah, so that's what I'm taking away from this. Is there anything else you want to give as a takeaway for anybody that's listening right now that can really just kind of add on to that?
I think keeping a gratitude journal is a great idea. On my website, I have something called the 30-day challenge, which is easy yet not really so easy. And essentially, it's you need to, I had a lifelong happiness bracelet or something, right? So even if you use a rubber band, whatever it is, put on a rubber band, a bracelet, pick a wrist, you have to go 30 days without complaining, criticizing, or gossiping. So, and if that's not enough, you also have to write down 3 things that you're grateful for every day. And you can do that either online, on an online journal, or in your own journal. Now, if you catch yourself doing any of those things, complaining, criticizing, or gossiping, rather than automatically having to switch wrists and start the 30 days over, if you perform a random act of kindness within 5 minutes of catching yourself, you don't have to start over. You can continue. So, and a random act of kindness can be anything from, opening the door for someone, or smiling at a stranger walking down the street, or genuinely complimenting someone. There's so many things we can do. In fact, I started thinking about the whole notion of random acts of kindness, and I think, instead of random acts of kindness, why can't we just make it like daily acts of kindness or persistent acts of kindness? Yeah. I think that, the more that starts happening on a global basis, the better off we're going to be.
I like that. Yeah, that is really cool. That you made it a game, and you made it like a process. See, I wear a Pavlok wristband.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of the rubber band, it sends a shock through me. But
wow.
I do that with negative thinking. I do push the button and it sends a shock, and then you're like, whoa, not going to do that again.
Wow.
But now that you added that component of that random act of kindness,
mm-hmm.
that's the breakthrough for me, because it's like, okay, that is a piece that would really add fuel to the fire. I like that.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, I've always believed in that. I always knew the rubber band thing was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I'm being negative. Stop that. Yep. Awesome. So let's tell everybody where to go. It's just thehappinessguy.com, right?
Yeah, thehappinessguy.com. I have something called my TGIT, Daily Dose of Inspiration, and that stands for Thank God It's Today. And that's another whole cool way of thinking. It's like we run around waiting for Friday just so we can shout, thank God it's Friday, but when we do that, we're throwing away a lot of other days and discounting them. Why not celebrate every single day? So people can sign up. It's absolutely free, and just something in your inbox every morning, just a meme or a quote or a little story or something to just help get you in the right mindset for the day. And then I also have a video up there of just some clips of a few of my presentations, and actually some clips from my NBC retirement party. So it's kind of a fun little video also.
That's great. Well, I'm going to subscribe tonight. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you so much for the work you're doing and for doing this. It was just awesome talking to you, and looking forward to continuing.
I just found it was amazing. Everything you said was the stuff that actually worked in my life. Is a lot of it you were saying, and I just was like, that's incredible, because to some people it sounds so simple, but that's where the power is at. It's really just making it something that you can do every day, because what you do daily becomes what you do habitually, and that becomes your destiny.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ricky, and I look forward to an update. And we'll check out what's the name of the program you're building? Say it again. The
Successponential.
Successponential. I think that's.
Yeah. In fact, you can, and it's spelled exactly the way it sounds. SUCCESPONENTIAL. I know it's a mouthful, but for anyone who's interested, you can go also to successponential.com and sign up to be one of our first beta testers. So it's coming soon. It's going to be exciting.
Awesome. All right, Ricky. Well, thank you so much, and I'm going to do my best to take what you got and just bring it in and make it a part of my daily routine too.
Wonderful, Matthew. Thank you so much. You got it.
All right. Take care.
Okay. You too.
Bye-bye.